Okay, I'll welcome you again. Welcome to the ReGen Board of Directors meeting. It's Friday, September 19th. It's 9:05. Could we please have roll call?
Sure. Chair Shirley.
Here.
Vice Chair Delgado.
Here.
Director Blackwelder. Director Askew.
Here.
Director Barber. Director Garcia Arzola. Director Vicky.
Here.
Director Pedori.
Here.
Director Bird.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Okay, great. Could everyone please join me and stand? Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we'll move on to public communications. Anyone wishing to address the board on matters not appearing on the agenda may do so now. Please limit your comments to a maximum of 3 minutes. No one online? Okay, I'll close public communications. We'll move on to consent. On the consent agenda, we have 5A through 5C. Is there anything on the consent agenda that the board of directors would like to pull? No. Anything from the public would like to pull from the consent? None. Okay. We'll come back and I'll accept a motion for the consent agenda.
So moved. Second.
All right. Moved by Director Delgado, seconded by Director Pedori. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, motion passes. Thank you. All right, we'll move on to the financial report for August 2025. Barb.
Morning, everybody. We are now through 2 months of fiscal 26. In August, our operating revenue was about 4.5 million, and we were about 380K under budget. So pretty much all categories, tip fees, power, and MRF were all below budget for the month. The power revenue is way down because the plant has been offline for quite a while. So the revenue you're seeing there for August is basically all the sale of the renewable energy credits that we earned to a third party. Operating expenses are below budget for the month, and net income for the month was 672K, so we're about nearly 400K over budget for the month. Year-to-date revenue is about 9.3 million, and we're about 460K below budget. Again, that's across all categories. And net income for the year-to-date is 1.5 million, and we're about 988 above plan. That's because operating expenses are below plan in the first 2 months, and a lot of it has to do with just kind of the timing of when things are going to happen. We will likely catch up with the operating expenses before the end of the year. Tonnage received so far this year is 169,000 tons compared to 150,000 tons in the same period last year. The difference being in the first 2 months of last year, we were not receiving any ADC material at all. So but that has resumed to more normal activities this year. So that's essentially the difference in the tonnage received. Our diversion for the first 2 months of the year is about 70%, and it's staying at that level. We've seen slight upticks in the past few months, which is a good thing. One other item worth mentioning is that we have consumed about $3 million of cash in the first 2 months of the year, meaning we have spent $3 million more than the cash that came in. And that's all related to the payment of our insurance premiums, our workers' comp premiums, and fixed asset costs, primarily relating to Mod 7. So any questions, I'd be happy to take them on. Yes, sir.
Couple questions on the cash you just mentioned. That's related to insurance and various normal annual events. Are they up $3 million over a year ago, these things, or?
No, it's just this is just the time of the year when we pay those things. We
But
get
every year we kind of pay these things.
Yeah.
And you're comparing it to last year. So I would think the same payments made last year and this year.
Yeah, but I'm just saying that our cash so far in the first 2 months of fiscal 26 is we spent 3 million more. I don't know what the comparison is to last year.
Rather normal things like insurance payments and so forth.
Yeah, but because those are one-time payments in the year, that's
I think
impacted.
you're missing my point. Last year, we had one-time payments in the same 2 months for insurance and various things. This year, we have it over $3 million more. Are we spending more for insurance, 3 million bucks?
Well, I don't know that they're $3 million more than what they were last year. I'm saying just the impact on our cash balance. In the first 2 months from July 1st, our cash has gone down $3 million. I don't know what the numbers are compared to last year. They're probably very
Yeah.
similar because our
Chair,
premiums.
I'd like to have a report next month on specifics, because we paid insurance last year and this year, we pay these things all the same, but we're 3 million short.
If I can help clarify, I think what Garth is saying is that we have more cash going out at this time of the year than other time, in comparison to other times of the year, because of these payments that we need to make at the beginning.
I
So
think
it's
he made a
not,
comparison that we're spending $3 million more cash this year than last year. And last year we paid insurance bills, this year we pay insurance bills. I don't understand why. Is insurance up $3 million? And the answer is no, but so I'm not sure why cash is 3 million worse than a year ago.
I think the point I'm making is, compared to our beginning of the year balance, July 1st. We're down $3 million in terms of we've spent $3 million more, and that's just in 2 months.
I would like a detailed report next month that would show cash by month, July, August, and September last year, this year, for what things, because I don't understand.
okay, Helen, can you help?
Maybe I can clarify a little bit more. What Garth is trying to say is that normally in the beginning of the year, we have these one-off payments at the beginning of the year, like all the health insurance, the workers' comp, and all that. And so that took a $3 million hit to the cash report. But as you mentioned, he's not comparing it to prior year. He's comparing it to, we spent $3 million more than the revenue that we have received year to date. That's what he was referring to. But we would be happy to bring a report next month.
You don't have to show it to everybody, just provide it to me if no one else cares.
We can always include it as part of the monthly report.
The second question I have is on power sales are down dramatically the first 2 months. And you made reference that they're offline, or I couldn't quite hear what you said relative to power sales. And do we anticipate this going forward also at this rate?
I'll take that question.
Yeah.
Felipe can-
Yeah, so we do anticipate power sales to continue to be down. We have an issue with a grounding of power. And so we're trying to isolate the issue. We believe we've gotten outside support to come in and do an evaluation on it. We believe that we could have a transformer that is going bad. They need to test it. We had to fill out an application with PG&E to request their support to shut off power on the entrance into the pole. We shut off power on the exit of the pole, and then an evaluation to the transformer will be performed. But until PG&E responds to our application, we will not generate any power until then. So I would expect that it continues to be an item where we're not generating power until we resolve the grounding issue that we have in the plant itself.
Could you let us know next month how we're doing?
Yes, I can give an update. Again, it really continues with PG&E working with us to shut off the power on their end entrance into our facility so that we could do the inspection on the transformer that we have concerns with. Thank you.
Thank you.
Other questions?
Just in response to, I think, I appreciate Director McKee's questions about the budget, and the finances. And I know we do have a finance committee, and I'm just quickly trying to pull up and see who sits on that finance committee.
So it's myself, Bruce, and Jerry.
Okay, got it. And so just also, I think it's important to know that we do have a subcommittee that does, in addition to our review of the finances, that pays sort of extra attention to a broad budget, and then you guys review the financials on a semi-regular basis.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. so just its process, for new directors, because I think for some of us, not every board that I sit on has a finance committee that goes into that level of detail. And I think it is something unique about ReGen. And so for new directors, just so that, as a reminder, we do also have that additional
And
process in place.
Director McKee sat on that
Oh,
finance committee
oh.
last year.
Oh, okay,
So-
got it, perfect. Okay,
Yeah.
well, thank you.
Yeah, and so Director McKee, if you also have questions, feel free to bring it to the finance committee as well.
Okay,
I do have a question, Garth, about the commodities, you know, the MERS sales, those have been up for us this last year. I think this is the first time when it's gone down. When it starts to go down, do we have any way to anticipate, are we in a slide for the rest of the year? Do we have any ideas on that?
We really don't have a lot of foresight into what the commodity prices are gonna be. They seem to be trending downward right now, but that could change.
Yeah. Yes. Oh, Jay,
Yes, or I can add a little color,
sure.
what we're seeing in the commodity markets is that, people may not be buying as much raw materials just because of uncertainty in the economic, climate right now. And so, we're seeing prices dropping because there's some hesitation in investing in new material. I don't know if that's what you.
It could be a rough ride going forward.
The outlook looks like more of the same. I think that's what.
Yeah. Okay.
Jay's
Can I
point of view.
piggyback on the same thing, do you think the tariff has some impact here?
Yes, it does, yeah.
Yeah, and
That's-
if I may, and Jay, correct me if I'm wrong here. We were having a tour the other week and, one of the questions was asked by one of the tour members about, the tariffs and the effects. And I remember Jay saying that plastics was something that might be more heavily impacted.
It's really uncertainty in the market.
All right, thank you, Garth, appreciate it. Okay, we'll move on. We don't have any other correspondence. We'll move on to, I'm sorry, I skipped. No recognition and presentations. We'll move on to our discussion item, which is the adoption of the revised guiding principles.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to introduce this item here. Guiding principles had been revised November of 2007. As we entered into our strategic plan, into our budget, we quickly realized guiding principles were not in alignment to the practice of the organization. It was changing right in front of our very eyes. Early this year, March of 2025, we brought back guiding principles with some recommendations from staff. We also allowed the process to carry over for an additional 30 days to receive feedback from board members. We came back another 30 days, we received, opened it up again, for board member comments and responses. We received a few comments in there. Staff has gone back, revised, with the comments that were added, and we also got a comment, addition, that we would like to include in today's request for adopting the guiding principles. We feel we put ample time to receive information, and as needed in the future, we can always come back to guiding principles and make any enhancements or adjustments based on the direction the organization is trekking or desires to create a philosophy around. I'd like to thank all the participants, the chair and vice chair, and the board directors and staff that have worked on getting us guiding principles that could reflect today's business. So it's been too many years that have gone by before we revisited these, and these have been an item that we can direct the board and staff to, that these are the principles that we believe are going to navigate us into the right direction for our organization. We do have the section that we emphasized around the guiding principles, and it mainly all the red line edits or the blue line edits were conducted in the rate policy segment, which was created. I think it would be an ample time for us to maybe read it out to the team, and then we could comment and hopefully take a motion with the suggested edits to this item. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, sure. All right, so you're saying read
The rate policy
the
segment.
rate policy.
That's where the edits are made
Yeah.
to this draft, and that two paragraphs later that in an effort be made to negotiate out of district contract agreements.
Yeah, so everyone could see for the rate policies, so the changes were ReGen will aspire to have at least 80% of operating costs funded by member agency tip fees with non-member waste revenue. Funding the remainder, so that went from 100% down to 80%. I suggested a change for the next sentence, just because I felt like the next sentence was really reflecting that 100%. And I felt like it needed some adjustment to 80%. So my suggestion for the second sentence is that this approach helps to stabilize member agency tip fees while also preventing an over-reliance on external waste sources, ensuring that core operations remain sustainable even if outside tonnage fluctuates. And so that was the only suggestion I had there. And then the last edit there that you can see is the last sentence is efforts shall be made to negotiate out of district contract rates to be comparable to member agency rates, which I think, you know, is something that our board has been striving to do in these last few years. So are there any other edits or comments that the board members have? Director Delgado?
Yeah, I have a large comment that I don't want to suggest to change at this late date. But that I hope that in a year we can come back and do this again, maybe do it annually, so we refresh everyone on the board and the public of what's going on with our guiding principles. But I'm not sure that 75 years is long enough in tier 1 and 2. So like tier 1, I think greater than 100 years of capacity might be better for our community, but I'm not suggesting that for today. But in the future, I'd like this to come back in a year or so we can have that discussion. And then I have a tiny edit to make if it's beneficial, and I think it is, but I'm not sure, and that is just somewhere in here, it says the Monterey Peninsula landfill. And if we're talking about this landfill, we probably should say the ReGen landfill, the Monterey Peninsula Regional Waste Management District landfill, because Monterey Peninsula landfill, maybe there's some other landfill around. I don't think of this as the Monterey Peninsula landfill, but maybe that, if that's the best label, leave it. If it's better to call it something, you know, that's
More specific.
or non-confusing, I'll leave that to staff to suggest something today. And then the last thing is, I'm really thankful that the last couple of years, we've been moving toward allocating money into reserves instead of having unallocated reserve balance, which kind of looks like we left money on the table, didn't know what to do with it. It's never a good look. So I like all those reserves. And my question is it going, again, this could be for the future, to talk about our unfunded liability, our CalPERS. Is there any reason in our guiding principles in the future to mention something about our policy on CalPERS unfunded liability, since it's such an elephant in the room, as much as some of these are operating revenue reserves and other reserves? So I guess I'd like a staff response to the CalPERS question, but it's for the future, it's not for today.
Sure.
Not trying to change anything on the fly.
Yes, I'd like to address the question
Yeah.
to the chair. We did bring this item of CalPERS liability to the board in the past already. We did adopt a philosophy around making an advanced $500,000 payment with increments to increase with CPI. So I do believe we have addressed it outside of this, but if when we come back again, we could decide that philosophy is working. We are entering year number 2 for those additional unfunded liability debt that we have, to reduce that debt over a 10-year period. So we have ventured into paying more of that liability a lot faster outside of this one document here, but we could definitely consider just inserting, you know, we are paying an additional attribute to the unfunded liability, and we will continue to do so until we feel the need does not exist anymore, but it is something that we should entertain. Thank you.
Thank you, Bruce. Yes.
Yeah, thank you. Is there any way, the changes that you just mentioned, Chair, could we see them on the screen, just so I can see them right now?
Here,
Or do we have?
Yeah, I emailed them before, so if you
Okay,
want
yeah, I just need to see, if I could just read those again.
Yeah,
And then, the comments about, the 75 years or greater than 100 years, and I think we've sort of had that sort of as an ongoing conversation. And I think continuing to have that conversation, I think is great. I think rather than an every year review of the policy, it's like maybe every 5 years. When we have the board, we have new people come on, I think we've got a lot on our plate. And so putting this like on a schedule to look at every 5 years, maybe would not overload us with just agenda items and things. So that would be my suggestion, as a way to like keep it relevant and present in our thinking, but also give us time to like get all the things done that we need to do. That'd be a suggestion I have. And I would say like, I feel very strongly about continuing to pay down our CalPERS, and I think we've got a really strong financial policy in place. And I do feel comfortable with the financial policy being where we keep that. If we were to find ourselves in a situation where we needed to make a change temporarily, knowing that it's one policy that we would have to change, as opposed to opening up multiple documents to edit, if we were to need to amend that in a budget year for some particular reason. I think the financial policy would be the place that would be logical to keep that. So I'm just, for ease of bureaucratic administration, I do fully agree and feel very strongly, but ease of bureaucracy, keeping that as a financial policy would make sense to me. So my suggestion would be, in terms to read this one thing. And I'm just gonna read this out loud for others who need to see it as well. So in the rate policy section, given the change from 100% to 80%, adding the second sentence in the paragraph. This approach helps to stabilize member agency tip fees, while also preventing over-reliance on external waste sources, ensuring that core operations remain sustainable, even if outside tonnage fluctuates. Okay. And I can support that as well. Okay, thanks. Director Delgado?
Yeah, I think it's good for me to learn what the guiding principles are meant to be. The name guiding principles to me means, what are the main principles that are guiding us that are so important that we want to list them here? If it's just about landfill and tip fees, then I agree with Wendy that we don't need to throw in CalPERS. But if it's about the ReGen's guiding principles beyond just landfill and tip fees, then I think that having those salient, most important principles, and one guiding principle could be our overall policy on paying off our unfunded liability, whatever that is. Doesn't have to go into specifics about $500,000 more every year, but it could be a guiding principle, because our unfunded liability is such a huge thing. If it's better left outside of this document, because this document is not meant to go beyond tip fees and landfill life, then I agree with Wendy.
Yeah, Director Delgado, I agree with you in that, initially I remember I had wanted, like, we should say how much are in these reserves, but maybe this is not the place for it, right? This is the place where we're saying this is what we do. And so I think if we are taking on that idea that we want to pay down those liabilities, that I think having a sentence in here that just says this is what we are choosing to do, we don't need to have an amount, but that, and it is something that can fluctuate too in a year. If we feel like we can't pay that, then then we don't. But I would agree with Dr. Delgado that this would be a place for that. Just because it is nice to have one place where we can go to and say, here are sort of our main ideas for our, kind of financial and operational guidance.
I'd like to hear from Wendy of what she thinks about the purpose of this document.
So I guess if we were going to generally, yes, if we were going to have a guiding principles document, I think it could include a lot of things about ReGen. The way that this document, as I see it being used, is more around like really it is the capacity, the landfill capacity and rate structures, like that's the core of what it is. If we're gonna start adding in financial policies and labor relations, like there's a lot more that we could add to it. So I'm just trying to think like we could add in, you know, if we're gonna talk about, we talk about reserve policies, debt service ratios. And it could just be like, we aim to be prudent in our fiscal policies. But I think that's a given. If we wanted to expand it out broadly, like there's a lot more that could go into it. So in the absence of expanding it dramatically and just to have, I think that if I go back to the intent of why we opened the discussion and why we wanted to get this addressed without expanding extensively on it, it really was to get the rate policies issue updated on it. And in the spirit of getting the rate policies issue updated, I would hope we could get that updated and then move forward, but otherwise we could continue this conversation we could keep it open for another month.
Okay,
So I think.
Director Delgado, and then I'm gonna go to Mr. Ramirez.
Okay, so, everything Whitney just said, I like to hear what she's thinking. Waiting 5 years to resolve this is probably too long. Because if you notice in this document, there's governance structure about how many board members, nothing to do about landfill. There's labor policy about delivering, primary services, that's, you know, it's more than just landfill. And then we have reserve policies like capital equipment, debt service ratios, it has nothing to do with landfills or tip fees. So this document seems to be all-inclusive. What are our major tenets that are our guiding principles? And if it's not meant to be that, maybe we can, in the future, narrow it down, give it a different title, you know, landfill guiding principles or landfill tip fee guiding principles. So when people look at the document, they know what the intent is. Right now, it looks like guiding principles in general for this organization, and there's a variety of them. But they don't include anything on our unfunded liability, which is as big as some of these that are listed. I'll shut up now.
No, it's okay. David.
But just to kind of get to the point of how often these things will be reviewed, I think it's gonna come up every time we set rates. So when we come to the board with a rate, which is either increase or decrease, we can point back to these guiding principles as, you know, this is why the general manager and staff are proposing these rates, because we've said in the guiding principles that this is what we're endeavoring to do. So I think it's gonna be reviewed and brought up on an annual basis, maybe not specifically as we're talking about the guiding principles specifically, but it'll be referenced, I think, for multiple, almost every year is what I anticipate, or what I think the staff anticipates.
So,
Yeah, just to give a little context to the history of these documents, my understanding is the intention was that these documents were to guide the board members' decision-making as you're having contracts and those sorts of issues coming your way. This can be a set of tenets that you all can refer back to as to what the board in this time and period was thinking was the future direction of the organization. It also helps direct staff as we're bringing recommendations for your approval in helping us be in alignment with what these principles are stating. So I think the scope could vary. The reason why this particular document seems to be very heavy on some of the landfill and rate pieces is that in the past, prior to this round of edits, there were two separate documents. There was a guiding principles and then there was a guiding principles for acceptance of regional waste. And those two documents have been now merged together to be one. So that's why it's heavy in some areas and light in other areas. So we take the board's recommendation as to future edits, understanding kind of that intent and structure as a historical background.
To build up kind of what's always saying, they're guiding principles, they're not policies.
Yeah.
So you do have the policy arm, which you can say this is specifically what we want to do. These guiding principles are really for staff to have a basis to propose things to the board. So if we have a 10-year outlook on what our finances are looking like, this is kind of where it would be, and you can go with it or not. This is guiding us in a direction and for a longer term. And if I have one more thing that's backing up on one of Mr. Delgado's or Director Delgado's question, but I want to finish this session.
yeah, Director
Okay,
Barry.
I think so I think I agree with all of the comments here. Generally, my view is that it's it says guiding principles overall, it's not, it doesn't say it's a plan. Like typically guiding principles leads to a plan. And I don't think we have a plan that we can, technically we have policies, but we don't have a plan. There's a middle step here. And these are still guiding principles. So but I do agree, like, if this is something that the board and the staff is looking into, perhaps similar, this is for the future. I don't think we need to do it like every year or every 2 years. Rather, we can define thresholds in here to say when we need to come back. So if it's just like we have the 75-year capacity, we can say debt service ratio is a certain ratio or dips under a certain ratio, then we come back to this or revisit it if required. Or if debt service ratio crosses a certain threshold, then we start paying back like the 500K or whatever. That might be more, I would say, a living document for us to review when we need to come back to this. It could be a year, it could be 6 months, it could be 5 years, but I think that will be a good kind of basis for us to. I think there are several kind of, not only these ratios, but there's several other components here because we've combined 2 documents. So, and I think if we apply the same strategy, which we were saying, 75-year capacity and above, all right, we'll do this. Similar kind of things we can do for other subsections here too. And that might help the overall outlook. And that we can come back to the table next year and review it. Anyway, those are my thoughts. And I'm good with the comments the edits that you made.
Sure, and just some
Sure,
comments.
sure.
I just want to add a little bit of, you know, how I feel that we use them as staff. I think we use them more on our everyday decision making. We continue to look at these aspects in big decision making, little decision making. So I think staff is really looking at these items more frequently than annually. 5 years, I think we consider them in a lot of the decision making we're making regularly. So I'm very happy where we're at today. I like the comments to when we do revisit that we keep a running list of attributes that we could continue to improve our philosophy and our principles. So thank you guys for all the feedback. Yeah, David and Zoe were part of the team that helped, you know, nurture these edits into the old last 2 items. And I think the results are where we want it to be at this time. And thank you everybody for the feedback.
Yeah, I just put up our website and looked at our board policies. And this came up, I think, in another context, and I'm trying to remember the exact space of I think there were personnel policies or something like that. And the question of like what exactly are our board policies here at ReGen and how, you know, holistically have we reviewed all of our board policies, and do we have that, you know, that whole picture of where we're at? And I know that staff has been kind of looking at, you know, trying to get your arms around some of those and like what's a policy and what's a, you know, a staff manual and what, you know, where do we need to like tighten up and where do we need to like, you know, update those kinds of things. But on our website, I mean, we have listed our agenda preparation and board meeting policy. We have our guiding principles for the acceptance of regional waste policy. We have our reserve policy, our travel reimbursement policy. Those are our policies. So at some point, maybe like you know, maybe for our executive committee or team to take a look at our policies and just and I'm reflecting back to the county, like we do have a set of financial policies that we use to develop our budget. We talked about the PERS pay down, like is that in our policies or is that a principle that we're using? Did we codify that? And now I'm wondering if we did, I don't know if that's either it's not on the website or it's not codified, or I wouldn't know where to find that as a board member. So it opened up some other questions for me, this conversation. So anyway, I appreciate the conversation and just wanted to tie it back to this other broader question and our board policies as a whole for ReGen. Thank you.
No, very good, very good. I appreciate that. I do think it's sometimes those things we can kind of forget about. So I think it's good to revisit. The last comment I wanted to make is that I see these guiding principles as sort of, you know, after we work so hard, you all work so hard on the white paper. I feel like this was sort of the next step to the white paper and really truly understanding, like you came up with these tiers and trying to understand how we were gonna use our landfill space. And so I see this document as something that, again, kind of summarizes or clarifies after we did the white paper, coming back and being able to have these guiding principles. And, you know, this is something I think that we can have on our website that shows, you know, what we look at, because it's true, when we do get any kind of outside contract, if we're stating that we want to aspire to have at least 80% operating costs funded by our member agencies, you're right. You know, every year when we look at member tip fees, we're gonna have to understand, okay, where are we at in that ratio? And so I think, I think it's always nice to have these conversations and think about, how, you know, the direction of our agency, and having it all written out like this, I think is really helpful. So, thank you. All right, any other, oh, go ahead.
If we're done with that.
Sure.
Slice, so there, it's a very, just a semantics thing about the Monterey Peninsula landfill and why it's called that. That's what the landfill is called per regulation, and that's the official name of the landfill. So that's the reason it was used, and it potentially could be changed in here. It just gets confusing what we're talking about, so we went with the official name.
Thank you.
All right, any other comments from the board? No? All right, I'll open this up for public comments. Any public comments on this agenda item? Sure. No? All right, I'll close public comments. So I do need a motion for this agenda item, and I'll accept one now if we don't have any other questions or comments.
I'll make the motion with the red line changes in the staff report, with the addition of the additional sentence that was emailed, that's been read into the record now twice. To say this approach, adding a second sentence, this approach helps to stabilize member agency tip fees while also preventing an over-reliance on external waste sources, ensuring that core operations remain sustainable even if outside tonnage fluctuates.
Okay, thank you. So first by Director Rudascu.
I'll take.
Second by Director Perduri. Okay, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? No, okay. Motion passes. All right, we don't have any other correspondence, so we'll move on to general manager communications.
I've got quite a few today, so bear with me. Update on the CAS project bids. The bids for the project were received. They exceeded the source of the funding identified for the project. ReGen will be rejecting all bids and plans to reevaluate the scope and conditions for the project, reissue another RFP and procurement process for CAS project. City of Seaside Green Month training, initiated by Technical Advisory Committee and TAC member Christian Van Gint from the City of Seaside. Also, our communication specialist Franco Guzman alongside representatives from Greenways are providing training to the City of Seaside staff over a month-long program. I just want to share what staff shared. It's unique to the city. They're really heavily involved trying to get their staff prepared and trained with how to receive waste, how to manage it, how to handle it, how to interpret everything that's going on. So week 1 was learn it. Week 2 was live it. Waste less and live more. Week 3 was share it, inspire a green community, and week 4 is celebrate the results. We also attended the West End celebration. Communication staff accompanied by staff volunteers from various departments attended Sand City's West End celebration on August 23rd and 24th. The celebration attracts over 15,000 people. Communication staffs were supported by volunteers from other departments who informed residents about our services, our shared motto of the MRF, educated about the dangers of battery fires, and distributed hundreds of food scrap kitchen pails. Operating engineers 3 leadership tour. Berta Torres, Eric Palmer, and myself welcomed the senior leadership from Operating Engineers Local 3. The union representing ReGen Monterey's frontline and administrative support staff. Local 3 is the largest chapter of the international union, making up about 10% of its total membership worldwide. During the visit, the leadership team toured the entire facility, met employees at job sites, and learned firsthand about the wide range of work that the members perform here at ReGen. They also hosted a lunch. They recognize staff for their hard work and celebrate the family culture that defines our team. Several longtime staff members were also recognized with awards for decade-long membership. We had quite a few 20-year membership employees that were given a OE3 pin. The delegation left impressed with both the skills of our workforce and the innovations driving our mission. Our Technical Advisory Committee tour on September 10th meeting, the TAC joined ReGen communication staff and provided a tour allowing 16 TAC members an opportunity to see recent advancement in solid waste at ReGen Monterey. First, they toured the MRF to see the recycling sorting in action. Then they went to the landfill to see Module 7. They also learned about other advancements in landfill gas compliance and compaction of other waste. They also heard from staff about decisions that the board and the organization will be facing in coming years and decades regarding landfill life and financial models. District Transparency Certificate of Excellence, the Special District Leadership Foundation awarded ReGen Monterey the District of Transparency Certificate of Excellence. The purpose of this certification is to promote transparency in the operations and governance of special districts to public and constituents, and provide special districts with an opportunity to showcase their efforts in transparency. The certificate is valid through 2028. Congratulations to the admin team for providing extensive documentation to receive the certificate. Thank you guys for your hard work. I think we go above and beyond the certificate. We do many things that are above the call for that transparency certificate. So keep it up. And again, it's really the guidance and what we continue to hear from the board. Transparency, share as much as we can with the community as often as we can. So we continue to hear that as our sounding board and call to this certificate of excellence on transparency. Franchise support on the MOU member agencies approval. After your board approval of the MOU for the franchise support, ReGen Monterey communication staff, Zoe and Kristen, each attended member agency councils and board meetings supporting staff in the presentation of the item of their public meeting. Zoe and Kristen were available to answer questions about the consultant selection process. And I believe we have four of the 7 member agencies that have approved it, and others that are just on deck waiting for the same outcomes. The Surfrider Foundation Salty Speaker Series features ReGen. Communication Specialist Franco Guzman presented at their local chapter meeting on September 18th. His presentation focused on the overview of what goes where, including specific information about batteries. He shared about the dangers of battery fires posed at our solid waste infrastructure, as well as proper sorting of batteries to ensure that they are being recycled, thereby reducing the need for mining of the previous elements that they contained. We also attended the Latino Conservation Day on Saturday, September 18th at the Alcorn Slough Nature Reserve. ReGen partnered with Waste Management and provided waste reduction education to approximately 100 participants during the Latino Conservation Day, a family and community event to build relationships, share resources, celebrate culture, and connect people to their local outdoor spaces. The event was in collaboration with family and community empowerment team and the Hispanic Access Foundation. Thank you to Franco for supporting this event. Employee Appreciation Week. ReGen Monterey Social Committee is made up of volunteers from across all departments. Last week, the committee organized Employee Appreciation Week with daily activities that brought staff together, including a craft coffee truck, a reusable lunch container giveaway, lunch with some raffle prizes. Large message boards were posted in each break room where staff could give personal shout outs to colleagues and departments. Events like this highlight ReGen's Monterey focus on building community within our workforce, and is a great example of how we are regularly creating opportunities for staff to connect and to be recognized. I brought a couple of our stars that were being posted up on the boards. I also would like to recognize our board to receive one of these. And I believe that one that's appropriate is this. Thank you for always making time for us and listening and taking action. And I believe this board is a representation of that. We come, we seek support, we talk about the actions that we need to be taking as an organization. So this was the type of week that we had, and I was very proud. Thank you to Berta, Social Committee, the support from the comms team, throughout all these events. You can see that we're heavily vested in the community and, we're not slowing down. We continue to spread the message. Finally, just kind of running down. I know our agenda was very light, but there is items that are working that we're waiting for, more, maturing of those items or more meetings and items so that we can come back and have discussions with the board. Some of those, will be the cast. City of Watsonville discussions are ongoing. The MOU approvals will come back. CalAm work, reimbursement agreement, items on easement 1 and 2. We're also working with Community Aggregate 3CE, which is, a potential partner that we could have in the future for our over the fence sales of power. And that has been very empowering for staff. 3CE has been a huge support for us to recognize what the opportunities in the market for generating power. And, you know, I mentioned Robert Shaw, he's their CEO. He visited us personally. He's assigned tasks to his team. They have shown us areas of the market that we were not aware of. So David has learned, I have learned, and many Helen has been involved in these discussions as well, just trying to get a grasp on where we would be with power sales and how can we flip that financial model up on its head by having the right partner and having access to some of the grants and rebates that are given by generating power or generating renewable natural gas. We also have in our foresights the purchase power agreement updates with Monterey One Water. As we learn more, we could take more into that. So there's a series of processes that we're evaluating before we can get right into the PPA. We also working on the outcomes with Cal OSHA. We did have a high risk item that we were looking to get taken off through our correspondence with Cal OSHA. We have not gotten a response yet, but they have received all our information. They received it very timely. And we are expecting that they would drop that high risk item to avoid any future outcomes or risk liabilities at our material recycling facility. We're also working on the anaerobic digester removal. The digester has been non-operational for, I would say, over 5 years now. And that is a opportunity to gain surface space back in our composting area, near the area. So we'd like to get it removed. It's just been there and it's now becoming a nuisance, and we'd like to get it removed. We're also working on procurement policy. And we recognize that we have items like 5.3, which is the media filter purchases. We recognize that there's items that are reoccurring. We have been following past practice, but we believe procurement policy could address some of these items where they have to come back, even on projects, they have to come back, and where those items have been approved at some point. We want policy to reflect that and really identify where we can have higher spends because they're absolutely needed. Media is one of them that's absolutely needed. It's for compliance. Otherwise, we would have to shut down, or we would run into a lot of liability and risk with our methane gases that are coming from our landfill. So these are items and examples that we would like to include in procurement policy in the future. Phase 2 and 3 of wayfinding. We also are very interested in looking at our concrete and aggregate agreement that we have in place, and looking at the current needs for our organization that could remedy some of the concerns that we have with daily cover. Our resources that we have available today may not be available in the future. And finally, the future of our landfill gas, you know, is that going to continue to be in power? Or are we going to go to renewable natural gas? And we're trying to figure out what direction we're going through collecting more data. So staff is working on many items that we're trying to get through. More of these items will be coming back to this board in the future. And I appreciate you guys all coming out today for the one item. But I believe the information is extremely valuable for the organization. Thank you, Chair.
I agree. Thank you, Felipe. Okay, we'll move on to board communications.
Yes, can I?
Yeah, sure, sure.
First of all, congratulations on the certificate. I think it's reflective of the organization. I was wondering if we could actually highlight that on our website or something like that, preferably in the board of directors page. Just kidding. But I think it's a good way for us to communicate whenever somebody visits the website that we're doing great things. So, I wanted to just follow up on a couple of items. One is the last time around, we received that notice of violation. Is there any update on that notice of violation?
No updates currently.
Okay, and then, the CAS project, will you bring back to the board why? Was it overbid or whatever the amounts?
Yeah, I can fill you in on that. So we had a budget in this fiscal year of approximately $4 million. And that was with the power cycle funds included in it. So the bids came back at $5.3 million. And so that was a significant amount of money that we didn't have in the budget. So staff believes we can do a couple of things to value engineer the project down to, significantly, or repackage the project to rebid it in a way that doesn't have so much overhead costs in it. So we're still committed to the project. It's just that not in this, with this budget overage. So we're being fiscally responsible in rebidding the project. One of the things that was important in this is the grant funds that we're getting from Cal Recycle and making sure that we align with the timeline that we're committed to in that grant. And we've talked to Cal Recycle about these bids, talked to Cal Recycle about how we plan to use the money, and told them that we think we can reduce the costs and if we can get an extension from them. And they've given us a head nod that yes, they believe that an extension in the project, which would take it to April of 2027. That's when the deadline would be, but we would be constructing well before that. So there's a lot of moving parts in the project that we think we can whittle down the costs so that it's more affordable to ReGen and closer to the budget.
Okay. And there's, just from my understanding, there's no way we can split it between 2 fiscal years. You gotta do it.
These are the discussions that we're having right now about, the project had a $4 million budget as a project. And so if we are gonna go over, we have to determine that we want to do that. And if we split it over fiscal years, we could do that, but we want to make sure that the project, we look at the project by itself.
Okay.
Before we do those kind of strategies.
And we'll be back. We'll be back to share more of those findings.
Okay, and then final comment is, obviously, everybody's learning more about the power sales, like how to, I believe like power sales need, for us to provide power, it needs to be a fixed supply, right? Like on an ongoing basis.
Yeah.
And activities like the transformer and PG&E coming into the play is kind of like detrimental, right? So maybe perhaps while we're exploring these conversations, we can also find out how PG&E or operators like those are managed.
Yeah.
So that we can provide consistent power supply.
I think we can provide it consistently. I think as an organization, we're prepared to invest heavily on this capital so that we have better run times. Yet knowing our destination is really important for us, Director Patori, is that we're trying to figure that out before we go heavy investment on the capital that we need so that we can have better run times. So figuring out this nuance obviously is priority number 1. But when we're looking at the next 20-year vessel to produce power, we definitely want to have all the information we need in advance into entering into any other agreements, so that we know the fixed price, the fixed rate, the end result. I don't think we had that view before we got into power sales within this last agreement that we have with 3 phases. So I think you're right on. We are definitely looking how we could do that. It is going to require that heavy capital investment. Those engines have run their course of their lifetime. Yet we are trying to make these determinations before we spend on the capital, because we wouldn't want to detour after we spent a few $1 million on new capital investments that we desire to have in there. So we're looking for all those end solutions. So if it was the best business case, then we could start that heavy capital investment. So we have continuous runtime. We know we could do that.
Yeah, all right, thank you, and that's all, thanks.
Okay, great. Any other comments? Yeah.
So I want to say thank you to staff like Jameson and Jay, for, coordinating all the litter pickup that the volunteers pick up every month. They did it again last week. So thanks to the volunteers and thanks to staff. Lapis Road and Del Monte Boulevard coming into the landfill are looking pretty much really good in between dumps. And we can't necessarily stop the dumping, but towards stopping the dumping, Wendy is working well with the district attorney's office and our staff to get at the disease of dumping and not just the symptoms of picking up litter. So thanks to everybody involved. I think progress is going on and Felipe is making sure that the progress is continuing. So just a thank you to everybody.
Any other comments? Yes, we do.
I do, a handful of things just to share with everyone. To the topic of odor, there was I know we've spent a lot of time talking about odor. I saw on the MBAR board, the Monterey Bay Air Resources District Board, where we get a monthly update on odor complaints. Very often there are no complaints that have been reported, but we do always encourage people to submit complaints just so that we have the data to track and geolocate and weather locate. However, on Facebook, we're also tracking and watching. There were a handful of complaints that came in last weekend from East Garrison. It didn't actually get called into MBARD, but in the conversation, a new location that I hadn't been sort of tracking was identified as a potential source, which was the Davis Road Salinas Ponds, which I wanted to go back and look at our study that the city had done that we participated in to see where and if we had really considered that as part of the sourcing. So anyway, reported that to MBARD. They're going to be taking a closer look at that as well. But it was a new identified source potential in the whole factor. So I wanted to make sure that everyone here was had that on their radar. And then just wanted to share a couple highlights. Mayor Delgado and I had the opportunity to join 3CE at the annual meeting. Director Delgado sits on 3CE board. I'm an alternate, but had the chance to receive a lot of information. The 3CE is our community choice aggregator for power. Given the battery storage fire at Moss Landing last year, I spent a lot of time just trying to understand how power and energy procurement works, how transmission works, the states. The state of California policy impacts our local ability to obtain energy, how we use energy, and what the choices that we make locally have on our ability to, have access to energy. So 3CE includes 5 counties, and it's a local procurement strategy, different from the transmission of power. But just a couple highlights from that I took away. 40% of 3CE's residents live under the federal poverty limit, which is a pretty high percentage of poverty that exists in our community that I'm always reminded of as we think about decisions that we're making and rate management for our communities. And there were a couple things that came up to me as being very relevant for ReGen. One of them is that there's a number of 3CE programs that are funded that would potentially benefit either our residents and our customers that we could potentially help promote and get the word out to our customers, either at the gates or here through our own advertising, as well as some of the legislative advocacy work that they're doing that Bruce mentioned and spoke about around some of the climate credits, electrical infrastructure, interconnection, some of the transmission, some of the financing, some of the rebates that are available for batteries, some of the concepts around virtual power plants, which was a whole new concept that I wasn't familiar with, but I think is something that we definitely could fit into this concept of. And then this other concept of regional transmission organizations, which, given the fact that we have access to the resources that we have here, we could definitely fit into some of these things. And there's state legislation that's being drafted and in the works now. And so making sure that our voices and the opportunities that we have are being crafted into legislation. It just opened up some ideas that I hadn't really been thinking actively about. But that I think we're very well suited and primed to be working with Laird and Addis to make sure that they know how we could fit into the language that they're crafting, either to fund us for that capital infrastructure that we might need, or to craft incentives that would allow us to benefit from these transmission and infrastructure streamlining activities that are moving forward. So I know you're working with 3CE, but I think there's a lot of opportunity that's at play for us to coordinate. And I'll leave it to Bruce to continue those conversations, given that you do sit on the board and I don't actually go to those meetings. So, but yeah, just wanted to share some of that information. Thanks for that time.
Well, I think that our staff here, especially, were somewhat affected, at least psychologically, emotionally, from the Moss Landing fire. You know, what are you breathing? How, is there any danger to you and your family? And so that has given a black eye to battery storage, you know, around the country, maybe around the world, that fire. And so it was interesting to learn last couple of days that 5% of the battery storage ongoing now is of that type, where they have one building with a whole lot of battery storage that's connected to each other and can all burn at once. Whereas 95% of the battery storage that exists today is containerized, so that if there's a fire, it's limited to that container. At times it might get to the next container, but firefighters go up and they say, oh, nothing we can do, it's gonna burn out in a half an hour, it's not a big deal. This was a big deal because this was the outlier of how the old days batteries were allowed to be stored, but that's not what's going on with technologies today. As things get built, they're not being built that way. That wasn't built for battery storage, that was built for other purposes. The other interesting thing is that 93% of all accounts, residential, commercial accounts, have opted to go with 3CE. So PG&E in our case, Southern California Edison down near San Luis Obispo, they're getting 7% of the customers they used to have in that area because of this 3CE choice. So that's kind of interesting. And then the last thing that I think everyone will find interesting is that California is second in the world for the amount of battery storage they are doing, only to China. So China's number one, California's number two, and all other countries and states are somewhere else. So I didn't know that California was such a big player in battery storage. So Moss Landing means a lot, and hopefully we can continue battery storage safely. And that's, well, I guess there's one more thing I learned, is that making power is not the big deal anymore. You know, having power plants that produce solar or hydro or geothermal or nuclear that don't rely on carbon is not the big deal. We have plenty of production. The real emphasis now is not putting more solar on our roofs, it's getting storage. All that production we've already done, all the production that's online to be produced or to be built in new energy generation plants has to go somewhere when it's not needed. And therefore, battery storage is so important. And that's why what happened in Moss Landing is such an unfortunate occurrence, because it slows us down where we want to go.
All right. Well, thank you very much for all these comments. Was there something else?
If I can comment.
Sure.
Yeah, the partnership with 3CE is kind of what I think we've been missing in the past with our power purchase agreements. And so we're really excited to talk to 3CE. So any support the board can provide in encouraging those discussions when a power purchase agreement does come on the table, we're eager to get your guys' support for it. It's a great public relationship. I mean, that's just one of the reasons 3CE was created. And now that 3CE is kind of developed, got running, and is now moving. They may not have been interested in our power before, but now it seems like it's all coming together to kind of benefit both organizations.
Great.
Appreciate that.
I'll just say that 3CE is excited about what's going on here. They're excited about the opportunity of a partnership because they want to be about community. That's their whole point. They're not the normal energy provider. And so,
Sounds
like you
familiar.
said, Now that they've established their boundaries and they've got the 30 cities and the 5 counties all on board, they're done enrolling.
Yeah.
Communities. So now they're ready to do what they do. And what they do is try to work with communities to localize power. And so they're excited about ReGen's desire to produce power and look at all the options they have, we have, to make the best dollar decisions and get this power, you know, in the place we want it.
Thank you.
Great, good. All right, well, thank you very much for this conversation. Was there more? No, any other comments? Okay, I think we're good. I'll go ahead and adjourn the meeting. Our next meeting will be October 24th. Have a great weekend, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.